Hey, a language arts lesson for today. Sometimes when you read stories, you want to determine whether it's real or not, and where is the perspective that the author is writing the story from. And we call that genre. And the types of genres that you're probably familiar with are fiction and nonfiction. And sometimes there's something called folklore. And I don't know if that got in. Oh, it did. It got in there. Folklore. So, you've learned from a very young age, fiction means that it's something that's made up. It's not real. Nonfiction is something that's real. Okay? And then folklore is a story that's been passed on from generations to generations. I remember a story about the clever coyote and how he always messed with people, and then one day he got messed with back and he learned a very valuable lesson. So, when we talk about these, we also have subgenres, which are groups that fall under these. For example, in fiction, we can have science fiction. Okay, and science fiction would be something that would have to do with like maybe space or anything that would deal with like maybe something you would do with science class. Just something that we always think about, that's something that's around us. It could be dealing with motion, it could be dealing with mass, it could be dealing with chemistry. Science fiction. Most of the stuff you're probably familiar with has to do with space, something like Star Wars, for example. Then there's historical. Historical would be something that would go back in time in history and could seem real, even though it's really not. It's a made up story that might have happened in the past. So, historical fiction might have been something about, maybe a rabbit who became a general in the Revolutionary War. It's historical, but a rabbit can't become a general. And then another one would be realistic. Now, realistic means it's something that really could happen, but it was still made up. And these two are very similar, except historical will definitely have a reference to something that happened in the past, some type of historical event. Now, when we look at nonfiction, we have things where like people write about themselves, okay? Or sometimes they write about other people. So we have autobiographies. And we have biography. Okay? An autobiography, auto means that you do it yourself. Biography means that somebody else writes about somebody's life. And then we might have informational. And an informational writing would be something like a book that tells you how to do something. Like if you want to know how to fix your bike and fix a chain on your bike, you would find something that was informational writing. Okay? And then sometimes even people write things like essays. An essay would be a paper that would be on maybe why people do the things they do. Okay? And the last one, folklore. I'm going to move it a little bit, make sure we get all this in. Folklore would be things like a myth or a fairy tale. Sometimes it might even be things like a legend or a fable. And even other things, it could be something like a tall tale. Now, a myth, you might think of mythology. You might talk about like Medusa or Zeus. A fairy tale, that could be something like I'm getting it blank. Like the Seven Dwarfs. Okay? A legend. You probably heard of like the game The Legend of Zelda. Okay? It would be a prominent figure that they made seem very important. Like Paul Bunyan, he was big giant of a man who could cut down trees, and he saved people in the Midwest in the 1800s. Okay? Fables are little stories we might tell children, maybe like the Billy Goat's Gruff. Might be a lesson to be learned there. And a tall tale is very legend-like. A tall tale makes a human more bigger than life. A tall tale. So we're going to go over these different genres and subgenres in language arts. You're going to read some things, try to find these categories, and we'll be going over them the rest of the week. All right, bye.